All right, I am taking a ride on a freshly repaired Wired Freedom that I bought back in February, and things didn't go too well with this bike. It broke down pretty much just over 23, 24 miles, and I had to contact Wired and get the thing repaired. As you can see, it is repaired, but it's freshly repaired. So the review that I was recording kind of got shot out of the water. So this is not going to be a review of the Wired Freedom and its capabilities. This is going to be more of a review of Wired's customer service. So let's go back in time and I can show you exactly what happened. All right, so I am kind of technically going for my first ride on the Wired Freedom right now. I say kind of technically because I did take this bike out for a quick maintenance ride after I put the bike together after I first got it, but this is my first, what I would say, real ride on the Wired Freedom. And you may have noticed that the handlebars are different than what the stock Wired Freedom comes with, and it's because I hate the BMX handlebars. I switched those out immediately. I was going to do a full review on the Wired Freedom before I changed out the handlebars, but this is the last gen Wired Freedom. I bought this back in February before I left for vacation. My plan was to come back and do a full review on the bike after I got back, and found out that when I was on vacation, they changed out the frame style to a newer model. So do I regret it? Likely no. I'm going to have to take it on these full rides and see what it does, but I do think the new frame is a huge improvement on this design, but they probably perform about the same. And I think a lot of people buy these kinds of bikes because they want to get the most speed they can get out of an e-bike and kind of trick themselves into thinking that it's a motorcycle. Really, really fast e-bikes. Oh my God, it's windy out here. Really fast e-bikes are not very good at being motorcycles. I hate to break your heart and break it to you that way, but if you're buying a $2,000 e-bike because you want to ride it like a motorcycle and kind of, like, I guess, get away with something, you're really kind of not. And what I'm seeing on the speedometer here is that this bike is getting up to about 37.5 miles per hour, 37.7 now. Anyway, I heard this bike will break 40, but I do weigh 200 pounds. We'll see. I've not been pedaling. I'm going to kick in some pedals now and see if I can get it to go any faster. Looks like about 38 miles per hour, if that's accurate. Yeah. Like I said, I weigh 200 pounds and I'm riding this down country road. Anyway, back to my point at hand with buying an e-bike to be a motorcycle. If you're doing that, you're buying the tallest dwarf. Basically, so I paid just over $2,400 after shipping with this bike, and that's delivered to my door. I think if you live close to the factory, you can go pick it up and save yourself like 300 bucks, and it might be cheaper depending on where you get it shipped to. But anyway, that's 2,400 bucks for something that is not as fast as the slowest motorcycle on the market. So if you're buying for speed, you're spending your money in the wrong way. Of course, a lot of people are like, oh, well, I don't need a license or, insurance on it. But the thing is, if you're riding this out on the road, you're riding illegally. And if you're riding it on the trails, you're not going to hit that speed anyway. Like a rail and trail, well, you shouldn't, because you're not really allowed to get up to that speed on a rail and trail. Anyway, the point I'm getting at is that I bought this bike for the 60 volt dual battery, and I want to be able to go out and hit the rail and trail and ride all day at like 20 miles per hour. So I'm not trying to judge anybody if you're buying this thing for speed, But like I said, if you're buying it for speed, you're spending your money in the wrong place. With that being said, it is one hell of a fast e-bike. It's not a dual motor bike. I just got done doing my round of videos for the Filoto Forester. That one's a dual motor 60 volt e-bike, and that thing will get up and go, but it doesn't have the takeoff that this one does, and they cap out at about the same speed. That is, if this speedometer is accurate. The Filoto Forester, at times it says it'll get up to like 43 miles per hour on flat ground, but if you look at the GPS real-time data on it, it's really only getting up to like 39 or 40. So if this is accurate, this is a single motor and it's getting up to about the same speed as that bike. The difference is that bike is about $800 cheaper than this one. So is this bike $800 better? I don't know. I'm going to have to put it through some more tests and find out. There are some things that I like about this bike, definitely more than the Filoto Forester, but there are a few things on the Filoto Forester that I actually like better than this bike. And I will do a full in-depth review comparing the two after I do a full review on this one. This one definitely has more oomph when it comes to getting up and moving. The Forester kind of ramps up in its speed. It doesn't have a really strong takeoff like this bike does. But anyway, if that's what you're into, I don't know that the strong takeoff on this bike is really worth that $800. But that's just one thing that this does better. It's definitely got a way better screen, and the data that you can see on the screen is a lot. You've got a lot more that you can kind of look at. This thing also, for being a single motor bike, it rips right up these hills. I got a hill coming up right now, and it's going to bog down a little bit, but when I get up to this hill, it's going to tear right up it. I've been pedaling this entire time, but I've not been really putting a whole lot of effort into the pedaling. I mean, I could put some more effort into it and get a little bit more speed out of it, but it's really nominal what I'm putting in. And I'm fairly conditioned for bicycle riding. I got some, I'm thick around the middle, but I got some pretty strong legs. As you can see, I added a little thumb throttle adapter to this throttle, and that does make it, I prefer a thumb throttle. My hands are, I hate to say it, but I'm almost 50 and I'm getting a little bit of arthritis in my hands. So I added this thumb throttle for more comfort. I'm going to stop at this hill and do a hill climb here. And I probably would be getting a little bit more speed out of this bike, but it is windy out here, really bad. And I'm kind of doing this in between storms, but here we are, pedal assist level 5, throttle only, going up this hill. And it's tearing right up it, no problem. I've been riding this bike pretty hard. I'm at 76% on the battery life. I would expect more voltage sag if it didn't have the dual battery for sure. All total between the two batteries, this has got a 20 amp hour battery up front in the frame and a 15 amp hour battery in the back. So 35 amp hours total. I'm really sorry for the yelling, but it is windy out here. I'm kind of doing this first look in between rainstorms right now, and I'm doing everything I can to get this done and get back before the rain comes again. But we're looking at rain for the next 4 days, so it is windy as hell out here. It's always windy on this road. I live in pretty much the highest elevated point in Ohio, so I guess it is what it is. And that's another reason I prefer riding rail and trail on these e-bikes. I mean, if I'm going to go this fast, I'm going to prefer a motorcycle, but I know a lot of people are going to want to ride like on these country roads on this kind of bike, so this is what I'm doing to show what it can do. But anyway, do I like the bike so far? Hell yeah, it's awesome. But I do wish I kind of would have held out. Had I known the newer model was coming, I would have gotten it. I think it looks a little bit better. As a matter of fact, if I would have known, I would have actually gotten the Warrior. I mean, if you're spending this much money already, you might as well get the like bigger voltage battery, because like I said, I'm buying these bikes. I bought this bike for range, and voltage times amps equals the power, so your voltage works like a multiplier. So a 20 amp hour battery under 60 volts is actually not as much stored power as a 20 amp hour 72 volt system, if that makes any sense. Anyway, but do I regret my purchase? No. Actually, I do keep in mind that buying that 72 volt bike would be a little bit more expensive, and prices have actually gone up now due to tariff wars, so who knows where prices are going to be. I think this bike's going up like $200 since then, and who knows where they're going to get up to. So I'm going to do a range check in here. This is not my full review of this bike. I don't even know if I'm going to do a full review of this bike. I guess if anybody's interested in it, I'll do it. But this being the last gen model, you can't get it anymore. So, I mean, you know, who knows if it's even worth me doing the review. It's like, hey, look at this cool thing that you can't buy anymore. But I would say that it's probably very close to the new models. And you know what? I forgot to reset my trip meter here before I took off. I'm going to say this is probably about 6 miles. We're at 74% on the battery, but I've been running it hard. I bet if I wait a minute, it's going to come back up. Yeah, it's building back up right now. Anyway, we're at a quarter battery life, and I've been running it pretty much open throttle as hard as I can run it. So we're going to go back and see where we're at. Again, like I said, this is not a full review of this bike. This is just a quick look, my first impressions. If anybody's interested in a full review, post a comment, let me know. Otherwise, I really don't know. I like the bike. It's got some power. I like the bike, and I'm sure other people like the bike. But like I said, doing a full review on this might just be a waste of my time. So when the motor kicks in on this bike, it kicks in pretty hard, like really hard. You can feel it jerk at like even 30 miles per hour. Some people might like that. Like I said, I do rail and trail riding, so it's not really necessary for me to go that fast. I've got the bike in its like fastest breakneck settings right now with the strongest takeoff. So, you know, for rail and trail riding like I normally do, this is way too fast. But for country riding like this, it's way too slow. I really don't like riding e-bikes like this on these country roads because they don't go fast enough. But if that's what you're into and you don't want to step up to a motorcycle, then this is probably the bike for you. So I actually wrestled with buying this bike. This bike was on a list of bikes that I was potentially going to buy, and I narrowed it down to this. So I definitely wanted something with dual batteries that I could ride all day on long range on like rail and trail. Top speed really didn't matter to me, so I considered this bike. I considered quite a few bikes from E-Cells. I considered the FreeSky Alaska, and I considered the big 26-inch folding bike from Walkie. I narrowed out the bike from Walkie because I'm just not a huge fan of folding bikes, so that was the first to go off the list. E-Cells got narrowed out pretty quickly because they make some great bikes, but what they offered was more expensive than this, and the additional features that they offered were features that I just really didn't want. So holy smokes, we're up to 47, 48. But we were cheating going downhill a little bit there. So yeah, I narrowed out E-cells. And I guess another reason, kind of petty, that I narrowed out E-cells was because I think they got an ugly logo. It's a stupid, petty first world problem, but the wired logo just, to me, looks a lot more polished and professional in design. So what it really came down to was this bike or the Alaska, the FreeSky Alaska. And I really did wrestle with the idea of buying this one over the FreeSky Alaska. The FreeSky Alaska was considerably cheaper, and I really, really like the frame design of the Alaska, and I like what it looks like. I think it's just a really good looking bike. And I think the future for dual battery 26-inch e-bikes is that kind of frame where basically both of the batteries can fit in the frame. Hauling this battery around on the rack in the back is really kind of yesterday's news, but like, you know, that's just my opinion, man. I think having all of the weight in the frame is just a much better design. And honestly, it came down to, I just was looking at this bike one night and decided, all right, I need to make a decision. Riding season's coming up, so I dropped the money and bought this one. So what I would like to see in the future would be this kind of power in the FreeSky Alaska style frame. I think with that, you got the top dog. Like I said, I do like the new wired lineup with the battery loading in from the bottom. I think it's just a lot slicker looking frame. This is kind of what I look at is I see like an old style frame before like e-bikes really got refined with their looks. But it performs great. Whoa, okay, so the motor just cut out here. It just dropped. And the motor is reading 390 degrees Fahrenheit, and I've been riding this bike hard. Like, I've been hitting it really hard. Yeah, 390 degrees Fahrenheit on the motor, and it's got nothing. I'm gonna. That was kind of unexpected. I'm gonna shut it off, and I'm gonna restart it and see what happens. Motor is still reading 390. That's not good. Does it feel hot? No, it doesn't feel hot. Controller doesn't feel hot either. This is not good. I'm quite a few miles away from home. Well, I guess we're going to go down a few gears and start pedaling. I guess we're going to go down a few gears and start pedaling. Not off to a good start here. And I'm not seeing the motor cool down. I don't like that. Oh boy, this is not a fun bike to pedal without any battery power. Oh my goodness. All right, well, I can say this. I just did a crap ton of reviews on the Filoto Forester, and I ran it pretty hard, as hard as I could run it, for like 18 miles, and it did not crap out like this one did. Not good. And it's still sitting there at 390. Going back to, do I regret my purchase? I'm starting to. I'm almost thinking there's like a sensor or something that is wrong, because that temperature's not dropping. Howdy. And temperature's not dropping, and the motor and the controller, neither one of them felt hot. Oh my goodness, this is a heavy bike. You know, all that stuff I was saying about maybe spend your money on a motorcycle instead, passed me as a wise man. Oh my God. Hey, there's a graveyard up here. Fitting enough, I'm going to pull in here and check this thing out. Oh my God. Here we go. Is there a sensor or something? Let's try shutting this thing off again. We'll give it a minute. Uh-oh. I'm not liking the looks of that. Shit. Okay. Here we go. Yeah, the motor feels like lukewarm. I mean, it's a little warm, but it's not hot. And it should have definitely cooled down by now, I would have thought. Oh boy. You were the chosen one. Oh, I didn't bring any tools with me. It's brakes, tail light, that's nothing. Battery line, whatever sensor is going to be in here, I do believe. Yeah. $390 degrees still. What is going on? Let's shut it off for a few minutes here, and let's get out of this graveyard before the sun goes all the way down. Maybe I need to get home and cool down and be less salty about this, but oh my God, I got like 4 or so miles to get back, and this thing is a heavy monstrosity. It's still reading 390. I think there's something wrong. There's a bad sensor or something. I don't think that motor would have overheated in this amount of time. I mean, overheated to the point that it hasn't cooled back down. That has got to be like a faulty sensor. Oh man. Oh boy. Well, it's downhill for a minute. Here we go. I guess all that stuff I was saying about how you should spend your money on a motorcycle. I guess motorcycles don't have pedals, so you can pedal the rest of the way home if they go bad, but here we go. Yeah, if I'm putting it up in pedal assist levels, nothing. It's given throttle, but the motor is still showing 380 degrees, 390. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't really make out what it says. It's saying it's hot. Oh boy. Do we have headlights? No, that's not our headlight button. $390 still. Well, the good thing is I'm pretty sure Wired has really good warranties. I hope. I'm crossing my fingers because as a lot of you know, E-Cells went out of business, and Wired has stepped up to help out the E-Cells customer base, which I mean is a brilliant business move because they're not under any obligation to help that company out, and that's a great way to build a customer base, a loyal customer base, doing something like that. I know there's been beef between E-Cells and Wired, and I don't want to get into that drama. That's none of my business. I don't care. I don't have any brand loyalty to anybody. Okay, my brand loyalty to Wired is going a little downhill as I'm pedaling uphill here. But I'm hoping they got a quick and easy fix for this. Lordy, I'm gonna get it home and look at the cabling. Jesus. And we'll see how things go. Ay. It's still sitting at 390 for temperature, so it's gotta be a bad sensor. That's the only thing I can think of. Now, I don't want anything like this to be disparaging against Wired. You could buy like the nicest, most expensive Cadillac on the market and drive it 2 miles down the road and something could go wrong with it. That's just the nature of anything with electrical or mechanical parts. So I really do believe, oh my God, I do believe Wired, I think they're going to stand behind their product, but I've never dealt with them before. So, fingers crossed. I think this is like punishment for me bragging about how I was pretty conditioned and had pretty strong legs, but you gotta keep in mind, I think this bike weighs like 104 pounds maybe. So, and I'm almost 50, so, you know, there's only so much conditioning can do for you. Oh my God. Oh my God. You know what I'm going to try? I'm going to go up here and try to unplug the screen and plug it back in and see if that makes any difference. I hope so. It's pretty much downhill the rest of the way home for me, but Oh no. It's only like a few more miles to get home and all downhill the rest of the way, but oh my God. I hope I can get this motor up and going to get the rest of the way back. Yeah, that's why I don't like riding on country roads. And when I do ride on country roads, I want as much speed as I can get. As much speed as I can get without overheating a motor, that is. Alright. Let me stop this thing and trace out this screen cable. Is it this one? It's this one right here. So we're going to shut it off. I don't think that this is going to do anything, but I got my wishful thinking here. I'm going to unplug this cable right here. That's the screen cable. I'm going to plug it back in. Turn the bike on. Still 390. And yeah, this motor is straight up cold now. Controller's cold too. Yes. What's this? I don't know. Yeah, we got bad news. So I'm gonna get it home and take it from there. I'll contact Wired and see what they say. Okay, so the good news is I sent that video to Wired and they got a hold of me the very next day. It's been a couple days later because I just haven't had time to follow up and do the testing that they've asked me to do. But they asked me to disconnect the motor and test these pins in here. But the first thing that they wanted me to do was actually just power on the bike with the motor disconnected. And they said I should get a reading of -5. That will rule out a controller problem. Yeah, so we're at -5. And I guess I should mention, when I came home that night, I also did a couple of other troubleshooting steps. I disconnected both batteries, and with the battery disconnected, I held the power button on and powered the bike on, basically to drain any charge off of any kind of capacitors anywhere. So, and then I put the battery back in and turned it back on and had the same problem where it was reading 390. I also pulled the battery out overnight and let it set. I heard that if you let the battery set for let the bike set with the battery out for like 15 minutes, it can clear that fault out too. So I took the battery out, went to bed, woke up the next morning, put it back in, turned it on, and I was still having the same problem. So that's when Wired got a hold of me and they said to go through these next troubleshooting steps to see, to test everything out. Now, like I said, they said turn this on and make sure that it says -5 for temperature. That rules out the controller issue. Now the next step is to test the pins down in here, and very, very hard to see, but those small pins are the ones that we actually want to test, pin 2 and 3. And I'll take a picture and show. My problem is I don't know if I'm going to be able to get these leads down in there to test those small pins without shorting these out. But anyway, to test this out, we want to go to this setting here, and I'm assuming we're looking for a short. So if pins 2 and 3 are shorted out, we should get a beep. But yeah, like I said, my problem is going to be getting those pins down in there, and you can't even see pins 2 and 3 from this camera angle and with the shadows. But basically I've got to get those leads down in there, and do that with 2 human hands, and that's going to be a trick for sure. Anyway, I'll do my best and see what we can do. Yeah, so I'm guessing there's a short in between those 2 pins. It is a real challenge hitting those pins just right, but yeah, I'm convinced that that is what's wrong. That's like the temperature sensor, and there's a short in it, I'm guessing. Okay, so I really don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not, but I'm going to do my best to show you. Basically, we want to run our leads onto pins 2 and 3. It doesn't matter which of these touch pin 2 or 3. And you know what? So I got black on 2 right now, and here's red on 3. And you can hear the beep, so that indicates a short. And just to be safe, if I touch, say, 2 and, you know, any other ones in there, they don't, but once I make it over to 3, it does over on. So, okay, the easiest way to do this, okay, if I touch pin 1 here and say pin 3, we got nothing. Pin 4, nothing. So the easiest way to do this is to get your pin like kind of propped in between pin 1 and 2, and then the other one in between pin 3 and 4. That way you're making sure that your leads here aren't touching each other, but you're able to get a good solid touch on 2 and 3 without them shorting out, if that makes any sense. Yeah, pin 2 and 3, there's a short in there. That's my best guess. That's my best understanding of the situation here. Alright, well, I'm going to send this video off to Wired, and we're going to see what they do next. I have good feelings about this because so far they've been top-notch with their customer service. Alright, I uploaded that video of me troubleshooting the problem to Wired and sent them an email letting them know, hey, this is what's going on. And about 2 days later, they sent this out. This is a replacement motor, so I'm going to get this put in the bike. I've never done this before, but it looks pretty straightforward, so hopefully, crossing my fingers here, hopefully everything goes well. Alright, I got the wheel off the bike. It wasn't super difficult, but it is a lot more complicated than just taking a bike off of your normal, average bicycle. Next, I got to pull this brake disc off, and it uses T25 Torx bits. Should be pretty simple, and then after that, we got to take the motor off itself. So Wired's support was really great for sending the motor out to replace this. I mean, I can't knock them on that, but I would much rather be doing just about anything else with my Sunday afternoon than wrenching on stuff. I really used to like tinkering and messing around with stuff when I was younger, but that's because when I was younger I was stupid. Alright, the brake disc came off pretty easy. Now I just got to use a Allen wrench to get all of these off, and then the motor should just pop out directly. Alright, the bolts are loose, got that out, and I just gave it like a quick little, just a little drop like that, and it knocked the motor on out. So let's pull this out. Alright, there's what the hub looks like with the motor pulled out, and this is what the motor looks like. As far as identifying what inside the motor is actually wrong with it, that is beyond my skill level. I'm gonna throw the new motor in there. I was told to hold the wheel upright like this as I feed the new motor through, that way none of the parts fall off inside. So that's what I'm going to do, because the technician that I talked to really seemed to know what he was talking about. Here's the new motor, and we see that it's got wire ties holding it together. I believe this part right here is called a clutch. I'm not a motor expert, but he said to make sure that when I put it in, run it in sideways to make sure that the clutch doesn't fall off. And I got to make sure that these gears line up with those gears. So it's a matter of probably just feeding this rod through and kind of like wiggling it and finagling it in place, and just kind of doing it more by feel than anything. Yeah, I just ran it through, wiggled it a little bit, and it popped right in, so no problems there. All right, I got the motor set in there, and I've got all the Allen bolts started. I'm going to go through now and just snug them all down, working in a star pattern. That way it doesn't get like kicked up on one side out of balance. So pretty straightforward, pretty easy. I will be right back. Okay, so I'm about blind as a bat. These things are not Allen head, they are Torx head. An Allen head wrench pulled them out no problem, but to snug them down, I'm going to need to use a Torx head bolt. I should have been wearing my glasses for this. All right, I got the brake disc back on, and one thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to spray some brake parts cleaner on a rag and wipe this down. Sorry for the wind chimes, because this is a very greasy job, so I want to make sure that this brake disc, I want to make sure I didn't get any crud on this brake disc so that I don't have squeaky, squealy brakes later. All right, we are back in business here. I got the wheel put back on. I got the motor hooked up, and as we can see, the temperature is reading 71 degrees Fahrenheit. And let me put it up in pedal assist level 1 and goose it a little bit. Yeah, it's got some power, so nothing to do now but take it out on a ride, run it as hard as I ran it before, and we'll see what happens. All right, we're taking her down the road now to see what she's got. I guess the real review should start now, but I'm going to save that for another video. I guess this basically is going to wrap up with a review of Wired's customer service, which I'm going to say is top notch. I'm really not happy that the bike broke down, but I am happy that Wired wasted no time with getting the bike back up and running, and that's like textbook how customer service should be. So like I said, yeah, it sucks that the bike broke down, but you could buy like the best top-notch piece of equipment on the market, and it could break down the very day that you buy it. It could break down right out of the box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this bike for a while, and before I do a definitive review on it, I am going to follow up and talk about the performance of the bike in another video. But this video is probably running pretty long as it is. I am going to take the bike on a pretty long ride today and just make sure everything is up to snuff. But so far so good, though I haven't gone very far. Like I said, I'm going to follow up and do a full review of this bike, and eventually I want to do a comparison video between this bike and the Filoto Forester, which I also really have a lot of fun riding, and I would say that these bikes are kinda in the same class, though this one costs a lot more money. But anyway, I think I've rambled enough. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.